Hello and welcome to another fun-filled edition of Adam's Music Box. Well, Nipsey Hussle was a legend of music, a legend of community hands-on activism, because his activism wasn't the kind of the stage or the screen or the documentary, certainly not in his lifetime. It was the hands-on legacy of operating small businesses in his community, promoting small businesses, creating a network for people to come together to learn commerce, educate one another, feel that communities that throughout the world are becoming more atomized and segregated are really communities of individuals and of families and of people that don't need to give up. And for that, he'll always remain a hero, not only to the people of South Central LA, but to people who admire philanthropy and admire music. And of course, he's also tragically known for the way he died. And it feels like yesterday, but I do believe it was 2019. But there's something happier and something more fun than just that, because I don't want to obviously end on that note. His real musical legacy is being the lost king of the mixtape. And to understand why, we have to back up a bit. Mixtape means different things to different people. On the one hand, it can just mean a compilation that is made by an amateur. So obviously, you've got professional compilation albums, which have really become a thing of the past. They've been replaced by curated playlists. But back before that, you would have record labels releasing the best of an artist. So you'd have, the best of the Doobie Brothers, the best of the Temptations, the greatest hits of Journey, blah, blah, blah. And that continued on throughout the physical format era: LP, cassette, compact disc, 8 track before that, reel to reel for audio files at various times. But the compilation album has really been killed off by the curated playlist because it achieves the same thing for less money and less effort. So back to the mixtape. For some people, the word mixtape means a compilation that you've made yourself, whether it's the greatest hits of a single artist or the greatest hits of all of the artists or some of the artists you like. Think things like, the greatest hits of the year 1981 or top summer hits. These are the kinds of things you'd see on an LP or a CD, etc. Now, in the hip hop world, the mixtape took on a much bigger significance. And the reason is that hip hop was a kind of music and a culture that sprung up around the music that was not only ignored by the record labels, but before they even had a chance to ignore it, they didn't even have any realization that this existed, because the young people that were creating hip hop didn't even have access to the ear of the record labels. They couldn't even get close enough to be rejected. And there was some artistic good that really came from that, because it meant that the art form was able to stay sincere, true, organic for a lot longer than other art forms that are snatched up and sort of corporatized a lot more quickly. Now, hip hop was all about spontaneity, it was about live performances, but the cassette, which was the least expensive way for most people to record things, became a way of trading recordings, just very amateur recordings that were pretty low quality in the early days. You would trade the recordings among the community, sell it out of someone's car, sell it at a swap meet, and a lot of artists built reputations this way. This was true in the 70s, 80s, and the 90s, and of course beyond. But that's how so many big artists that we know and love, NWA, for instance, they were selling mixtapes at the Compton Swap Meet. Now, Nipsey Hussle's generation was one where the internet was really a thing. His first mixtape came out in 2005, and while the internet of 2005 was much less sophisticated than the internet of 2015, it was there. What this meant is that the distribution of mixtapes became far more sophisticated because they could be distributed online. And by this time, the compact disc became much, much cheaper to make yourself than it had before. When CD burners first first came out, they were very expensive. But by now, the CD had overtaken the tape, even though the term mixtape continues to be used, even in an era when not many people even mess around with physical formats. Now, Nipsey was someone whose official discography of albums is very small, but whose discography of mixtapes is very big. And that's really the essence of what he did. He was really someone who saw his art as something for his people in his community first and foremost, rather than someone with the heirs, trappings, and ambition of becoming another global superstar. And I think that that's why he really resonated with people, because while he definitely had the talent to become that global superstar, it didn't really seem to bother him, because in an age where it became more and more easy for self promotion, the whoring out of your art for the sake of trying to get some sort of public relations deal, which is frankly what most record deals are these days, since they expect so much of the business side to be on the artist. And Nipsey just said, well, to hell with that. I'm going to do mixtapes. They're going to be mine. I'm going to distribute them. I'm going to be a member of the community with a known face and a known reputation, which will help get my music out there. And the result is that people from the underground fell in love with his music, and this trickled up. This is the classic mixtape format. And it is true that obviously, as time goes on, mixtapes have gone from being very lo fi projects to being increasingly well produced. And in terms of the sonic elements, and even in terms of the organization, many now sound as good as any full on album. But it's the essence behind the mixtape that still, even in this age when the technology has blurred the lines between single EP and even album, there's still something about the mixtape that hints at something that's a bit more grassroots, a bit more salt of the earth than your typical album. And I think that Nipsey really, really proved this. And he was able to collaborate with huge artists, with these big international names, your Snoop Dogg's, your Kendricks, your Jay-Z's. And he was able to do this while keeping things in house. And the way he was able to keep his own projects in house was to base the majority of the output that he was in charge of on the mixtape format rather than the album format. And as we get further and further into an age where both the TikToks of the world are making it so that fame is more than ever the end in itself, rather than the kinds of community efforts that help make you respected, the kinds of things Nipsey did. We're going to probably see less of this mixtape culture, or at least it might take on a different form. And then the other important thing to remember is as the technology really blurs the difference between all of these formats, the term mixtape might lose not only its physical meaning, but also its wider artistic meaning. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, subscribe. We will see you next time. Take care.